let's look at LeetCode 2053. Here we have been asked to find the kth distinct string in an array. So let's look at how do they define the distinct string. So the distinct string is any string that appears only once in an array. Basically, it's saying if the frequency of the element of the string is 1, then it is qualified to be a distinct string. And there can be any number of distinct strings in an array. Means there can be multiple elements with frequency is 1. And we need to find the kth element whose frequency is 1 in the array. For example, let's take a look at this example provided by LeetCode itself. Here, when you look at D appears only once in this whole array, which qualifies it to be a distinct string. Let's look at B. B appears twice, hence it's not a distinct string. Even C appears twice, but A appears only once. Hence, this is the second distinct string which we encountered. The first distinct string was D. Since K is equal to 2, we need to find the second, we need to return the second distinct string. Here the second distinct string is A, hence we just return A. Now, if you if the there are fewer than k distinct strings, we just return an empty string. For example, if here k was equal to 2, then we would just return an empty string. I mean k was equal to 3, then we would return an empty string because there is no third distinct string present in this array, right? Okay. So what do you need to see? What's the first intuition you get? You need to find the frequency of all the elements, right? And if the frequency is equal to 1, then we can just store it separately in an array or a list somewhere, and we can just access the kth element from there, right? So we store all our elements with frequency 1 in a separate list, and in that list we find the kth element and just return it. So let's start coding. The first thing we'll do is um, let's take array list, okay, to store our answer. So this is going to be of type string. Um, let's just name it as answer itself, and let this be equal to oops. Yep. Now, now we need to create a for loop. Now that we have made our answer, here we will store all the elements that occurs only once in the list. So all the elements whose frequency is 1, we'll just store it in answer. Now let's calculate the frequency. Okay, so to calculate the frequency, there are two methods. Now let's look at the basic method, very basic, but using for loops. Here you'll not need to use any hash map. So if you don't know hash maps yet, you can carry on with the very basic approach which I'll be explaining now. There are two approaches to this. um, so let's look at the basic for loop. So using for loops, we are going to count the frequency of the element in the string, in the array, sorry. We are going to count the frequency of the string in the array, right? So let's iterate through the string first. For int, oh my god, for int I is equal to 0, I less than array dot length I plus plus. Okay, now I am into this. I'm at the ith position, right? And I need to compare it with I plus 1, then I plus 2, then I plus 3, then I plus 4, and I plus 5, right? So we'll need one more for loop within this for loop, and let's name it as j. For int j is equal to, now what will j be equal to? It can't be equal to 0 because I is already 0. It should be whatever the number of I is, it should be plus 1, because suppose if I was equal to c, uh, and c is what, 0 1 2, so I is equal to 2, then our j should be 1 greater than I, because c will should be compared with the right side. with its right side elements, right? So C needs to be compared with B, C, A. So what is C? C is 2, B will be 3, C will be 4, A will be 5. Means we need, we are counting for 3, 4, 5. That is I plus 1. Whatever the value of I is, I was 2 plus 1 plus 2 plus 3. Right? So J will be equal to I plus 1, and even J, the maximum element the J can go is it's going to be less than the size of the array itself. So this is not going to change. It's going to be less than array dot length and J plus plus. Okay. Now that we are inside the second for loop, what are we supposed to do? We are supposed to check if both the strings are equal. That is, if suppose if I is equal to 2 and j is equal to 2, uh, I is equal to 2, sorry, wait, I is equal to 1 and j is equal to 3, then we need to compare the index at I with index at j. So we are going to compare if, so if the array at the ith index is equal to, okay, one more thing, we can't use this because it checks for the, if it's referencing to the same object, and we both know that these two are not referencing to the same object. That's why we'll use dot equals to method, because dot equals to checks for the content and not the position, like if it's referencing to the same object, right? Okay, cool. hmm so if array is equal to dot j, then if it's equal, then what are we going to do? We are counting the frequency, right? Yep. Then we'll just increase our counter. Okay, we have not initialized our counter, but we can just uh, initialize it here. Count will be equal to 1. Okay, let me explain this. Why did we take count is equal to 1? We did this because we are count, because suppose like if I is equal to 0, right? So we are at D right now. So we need to count D the first time, right? The first time D is occurring, we are counting D. That is why we are initializing count with 1 and not with 0. So the first time we get an element, we are like, okay, iska count, this count is 1, and then again if we come across the element one more time, then we'll just increase it with 1. For example, if we look at B, first time I looked at B, okay, let's just put the count is equal to 1. Then the second time I'll look at B, then I'll just increase that counter. Understood? Okay, cool. Now, okay, so we are done with this counting part. Now we need to look when we are encountering the element for the second time. Means if you look at this array, right? Um, Take B. Okay. We have already counted the frequency of B the first time we accessed B, right? That is the first time I went to B, I already counted the frequency of this B as well. So when my count, so when my I counter will increase, when my ith counter will be equal to 1, 2, 3, 3, then again I'll be encountering B. Right. Again, I will be encountering B. And then I'll be checking for B with its right side of the elements because of this code we wrote, for loop, which includes J. And then our B will be the count of B, means it will get disturbed, right? So we need to skip this B element. We need to skip this B element when we encounter it for the second time or the third time or whatever number of times, right? So for that we are going to write a code now. So let's first create a boolean. Okay, let's make the boolean here itself. Let's take boolean visited. Fits here, right? Boolean visited, and I will initialize it here. For the when I'm encountering it for the first time, what will be the visited? Visited will be false because I've not visited B previously when I'm encountering b, when like I is equal to 1, that time I'm not visited b previously, so I'll just set visited as false. And now I'm going to check if there is any more b's present in the right side, then we need to check for that. Okay. Okay. So for int k, oh, we can't take k because k is already given here, so we can take, let's take l. For int l is equal to 0, int l is equal to 0 and l will be less than I. Okay, and let me first write this and I'll explain why am I taking it this way. Okay, so what am I doing here? Look, the second time I encounter b, mm, here this is going to be my position of I, right? This is going to be my I. This is the second time I'm encountering b. So I need to tell the code that this is the second time we are encountering. So do not count for this b. Just skip ahead, right? Just go to the next element, whatever the next element is. Don't calculate anything for this b because we have already included its calculations in the previous b we encountered, right? So we need to skip this b. So we are going to check if b has occurred before, anytime before. So if my I is equal to b here, means my I is equal to whatever this index is, right? So if I'm at b right now, then I need to check if b has occurred previously or not. B has occurred to the left side or not. Since we are counting to the left side, we will where the left side starts from, it starts from index 0, hence our L is equal to 0. And till where am I going to go? I'm going to go till what, till the left side of the I, right? If my I is equal to this b, if my I is equal to this b, I'm going to check till the left side of b. Hence L is less than I. Okay, I hope you all understood this. Now we are going to check if I is equal to L, then then first let's write it. If our array at ith index dot equals, I already explained why are we not using the double equals comparator operator, um, and why are we using dot equals, right? If our array at ith index is equal to array at lth index, it's so weird to say lth index, right? Okay. um, then what are we going to do? Which it, if we are visiting means, that means we are visiting it for the second time, right? So let's just change the boolean to, then our boolean will be equal to true, because this is we have already, yes, we have visited this before. And since we have visited it, just break out of this loop. So we have visited, the value of visited is equal to true, so we are going to break out of the for loop. We will always, so uh, what does the break operator do? The break operator, it it breaks the innermost loop. It breaks the innermost loop. Here, this bracket, like this thing, is not a loop. For is a loop. Don't just see that it will break the outermost innermost bracket. It is going to break the innermost loop. So here the innermost loop is the for, this for loop, right? So it's going to come out of here. It's going to come out of here. If let me just write, if visited uh, of this bracket, right? Or this loop, whatever it is. I hope you all understand. Hmm. So now our visitor is equal to true. Now what we need to do? We need to skip this I, right? We need to skip this I. So for that, what we are going to do, we can just use continue if visited, means if my visited is equal to true, then what I'll do, I'll just continue, right? And if I'm continuing, then what does the continue, what this keyword does? This keyword will iterate to the next, it will increment to the next number. Like if my I was equal to 3, like for example here my I was equal to 3, and I checked, Arey Baba, this has already been visited before. Then what will I do? I need to go to I is equal to 4. So I need to skip this, right? So it continue does the exact same thing. Whatever the I was before, it will increment it by 1. And the breaks out of the innermost loop. Okay? So if visited, then just continue. So we have taken care of the elements which are occurring the second, third, fourth time. And here we are calculating the frequency of the number. Okay. And now what we need to return the final answer. We need to look after it. Okay. Let's just make this a little proper. Hmm. Now I need to return the final answer. So my answer is stored, all the elements which with frequency 1 is stored in answer. And I need to find the kth answer. Now make, like, here the k starts from 1, the first and second, but our indices, it starts with 0, right? So we will need to decrement the um, value of k by 1. So uh, okay, so if, not if, just return answer dot get k minus 1, because the first, if it asks us to return the first distinct integer, distinct string, then we need to return first, the first value in answer, and the first value of in answer is stored in um, I minus, first answer is stored at 0th index, right? Hence we are subtracting it by 1. Okay. Hmm. Okay, okay, one more condition we need to check is if k is, if there are fewer elements than k. So for this what we'll do is, okay, we'll need to create a if condition. So if k minus 1 is greater than the answer dot size minus 1, then just return nothing, a blank empty string. And else what you'll do, else you'll just return this which we just wrote. Why did we do this? Means all the elements with frequency 1 are stored in answer, right? So the maximum number of elements is going to be the size of the answer minus 1, or the size of the answer, you get it, right? So if if k is greater than answer dot size, then there are fewer elements with frequency 1, then there are fewer elements than expected, then just hence we'll just return a blank string because of this condition they have given here. Now let's just run it and see if it works. Okay, there are a few errors. Let me solve them. I haven't written the new keyword here. New array list. Right. Okay, what else? The output is, wait, let me just solve this. Okay, we did a blunder here. We didn't add the frequency. It means if the if frequency is 1, we didn't add anything in the answer, right? That's why we need to take care of that as well. So if my count is equal to 1, if my count is equal to 1, then just add it in the answer array at I, right? And now it should work since everything is correct. Accepted. Accept it for all three cases. Submit it. Yep, submitted. Okay. So what would be the time complexity of this code? The time complexity would be n squared since there are two for loops being used. And what will be the space complexity? Space complexity will also be equal to n since we are storing n elements in the worst case. Okay. Now there's one more approach which hash maps. So let's look into that. I'll just comment this out. And then we'll look into the second approach of it. Okay, commenting it out. Okay, now let's look into the second approach, right? Yep. One, two tabs. So this is using hash maps. It's pretty simple. I think the solution, the yesterday's daily challenge also had this hash map thing, or it was yesterday or day before yesterday. I'm not sure. I didn't record a video for yesterday. No problem. So hash map, we are taking a hash map, and map has key and value. So our key is going to be of string type, and our value is going to be of integer type because we want to take the frequency, right? Let's name this frequency map. Let's just name it freak. Okay, I'll just call it frequency, but freak sounds weird. So new hash map, we have created our object. Oh, yep. One thing's done. Now what do we need to do next? We need to count the frequencies. Uh, so to count the frequencies, what are we doing? We are counting frequencies, right? So for string s in array, what will we do? We are going to put values into frequency, right? So we are going to do frequency dot put. What is the first thing we are going to put? We are going to put the string, and now we are going to pass in the frequency of string. So how to get the frequency of string? It is we use the get or default s comma 0 plus 1. Let me just quickly explain this. Okay, so this is pretty clear. Put function is pretty clear. You are going to pass in the string, that is string, and then for integer we are going to pass the frequency. And now how we are calculating the frequency? To calculate the frequency, we are taking the get or default. That means like the first time we encounter a string, right? So the first time we encounter string, means the value of the string before we encountered it was 0, right? The value of any string before we encountered it for the first time is going to be, the frequency is going to be 0. But when we encounter it for the first time, we just increment its frequency by 1. Then we encounter it for the second time, this will return the previous frequency. So this will return 1, and then we'll just add one more in it. So that's how this works. Okay, now let's just create a array list to store our string. Array list to store our string. Answer is equal to new array list. Okay, and now what we are going to do? Now we are going to collect all distinct strings, and store it in answer. So for that we are again going to be running a for loop. So for the string s in the given array, for that string, if frequency dot get s. So this is passing the key. If the key corresponds to the value of 1, then what we need to do? We need to add it into the answer. So we'll do answer dot add the string. Okay, And now the last part is going to be the same as this, exactly the same as this. So I'll just copy it. Could have copied the arrays and all as well. If k minus 1 is greater than answer minus 1, then return nothing else, return answer, get k minus 1. Okay, this is an error. We just need to pass the integer because both the objects we need to pass, right? And the cases are accepted. Let's just submit it. Yep, now we are at this. Before we were here, two for loops. But if you use for loops, your basic understanding of for loops will really improve. And if you don't know hash maps, then you can just use the first approach. In this, the time complexity, that yes, in this the time complexity is going to be O of n, and the space complexity is also going to be O of n because we are still using array list. We can actually improve the space complexity just by if we could just create something and improve this. I think, but this video would get too long if I did that. So let's just leave it at here. Um, yep, I could try and debug it, but never mind. The video would get too long. If you liked the video so far, then please make sure to like and subscribe to this channel. I'll try to be more consistent and I'll be uploading daily. Not just the daily challenges, but a lot more questions on LeetCode or like any other coding platform. And if you have any doubts, you can comment. I'll make sure to reply to each and every comment. It's very pretty easy since this is a very small channel yet. And thank you. Thank you for watching.